So, Ricky, the 15 Grammy wins. Let's see. Which one do you want to talk about? I mean, we could be here. We could have dinner, supper. We could bring in supper tomorrow.
Well,
let's see. What's it like to record an album and then you get out there and you've got these other 4 people that are names are in the same category. Then all of a sudden they say your name. What's it like, Rick?
wow, that's a true honor, I tell you. It really is. I never take any of that for granted, and I'm always thankful for all of those things. A lot of people don't really care about them, and I don't live for them. They're not what defines me, but I'm grateful for them. I'm thankful for them. It's a blessing. It's just, it's a true blessing. One of the things I was really happy to have won, as far as Grammy goes, was my instrumental album. And I didn't record it, never thinking that it would ever, win anything like that. I had a bunch of instrumentals, that I'd had on a little Sony stick recorder. Some of them we'd been playing on the road, but there was a bunch of them that we hadn't even worked up, and so we get to the studio to do the record, and so we cut some of the ones that we knew, and then I started dragging these new things out that the guys had never even heard, even backstage. They hadn't even heard them. So I started playing them, and wow, well, okay, well, Mark, so Fane, was down. He'd write a chart, and so a lot of the songs on that record is first reads from the musicians.
Great, that's the
It's
best.
amazing, and I love the way that they heard it, and they didn't have 6 months to play it before we get in the studio. They actually just got right in it, and this is my read on it. And I really like that. And so, but I was really, because I've been awarded for things I've produced or things that I've sung on, or even just my records that I have.
The Bluegrass, the Grammys, and the Gospel Music Association, and
and so. And that's, obviously that's for singing and that kind of stuff. But to be, to have a Grammy as a musician, instrumental writer or whatever. But that was it might not have been a big deal to anybody else, but it was kind of a thing for me that I was thankful to have. And so, yeah.
Great.
And, let's see, what else? Mosaic didn't win, and I was upset about it. Well,
we all were.
Yeah, we were all a little, but anyway.
So is there any, as we still got one little thing to do here, but before we get there, is there any other stories that you all have thought of that are shareable? Brent?
I thought of one.
Oh.
Go ahead, Jimmy. Go on. I got a couple quick ones.
You owe me $2.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you why. Because in
talking the mic.
In 1976 or 77, I was working for Audie Ashworth.
Uh-huh.
And you came to the studio, and you had on a Martha White T-shirt. And I said, where can you get one of those Martha White T-shirts? And you said, I'll get you one. It's $2. And I gave you the $2, and I probably hadn't seen you for 20 years.
Sorry, Jimmy.
You still got time. You still got time.
Let's see, $2 with what's the interest on it on 20 years?
I thought it was such a cool
$50.
Shirt. It was such a cool shirt.
Oh yeah, that was a great shirt. Sorry about that, man. My forgetfulness.
Would Brent?
Two quick stories. The great thing about Ricky's, he always had great people who always wanted to record with him, just because he's a great man for one thing, and he's a great musician. So, a couple of the funniest things were when he did a record called Big Mun. John Fogerty sang on a track, And Ricky said, I'm gonna put a steel on that track. And John's like, what do you got coming in? He said, Caden's gonna come in and play on it. And I said, Ricky, how should I set up for him? And he said, I don't know what he's gonna bring. And this guy comes in and his hands are black. He was an auto mechanic. And he set up an amp that was about that tall, had a little stool and a little pedal steel about this big that he did the volume controls with his finger. And it made the most god-awful noise when he plugged it in.
Yeah, we had to point the headstock toward Gallatin.
Yeah, it was just like move the amp.
Yeah.
And he started playing, and everybody. John Fogerty was out here with his camera, and he was just shaking. It was like the most incredible rock and roll solo you've ever heard in your life.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, he brought his wife with him, and she had this little red beehive hairdo, and she'd keep sneaking down the hallway and go, "Tell him to do the kitty cat." And Ricky just kind of look at her, and I'm looking at Ricky like, "What's the kitty cat?" She did about 4 or 5 times. She just wanted him to swell it, you know. But it was just amazing to see John Fogerty, who had these incredible, huge rock and roll records, stare at Caden playing this god-awful looking thing, and it was mind-boggling to hear what he got out of it. So that was a cool thing. And the other was a funny story, and Lee and I just almost peed our pants laughing. Ricky did a record with Bruce Hornsby, and they cut Super Freak. So as they're doing this record, they're talking about stuff, and finally he said, "Man, we got to get John Anderson to sing on this." So we're all like, okay, cool. So John Anderson agrees to do it, and Hornsby's here, Ricky's here, Lee and I are here. And we're in the control room, and John comes out, and he starts doing his thing, and Hornsby goes, no. He says, I hate that. He said, I got Elton John to come sing, and he started singing like an opera guy. He says, he's not doing John Anderson. So Ricky's like, well, son, what do you think we ought to do here? So Hornsby comes out here, and there's John Anderson and Bruce Hornsby right here, and Hornsby's singing it like this John Anderson swinging guy. And John Anderson's going, looking at him. And we're about to pee our pants, and it's like, okay. And he did it. But it was just one of those cool studio moments where Hornsby's singing like John Anderson. John Anderson's staring at him like, you have lost your mind. Anyway, just
He got it.
Fun. And he did it right after that. It was like, that's it.
John was just being more modern day John. He wasn't, I'm the black sheep of the family. You know, that's what we wanted right there. She's such a wild thing. She's a super freak. I don't really about me in the magazine. So we got it.
I know why he sang like that.
Why?
I did all those records.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you did.
And a good singer takes a whole breath and sings all the way to the end of the line.
Yeah?
Well, John was in such shape. He was a laborer, you know.
Yeah.
Buildings.
Weren't you cutting swing and they pulled the gear out of the studio?
Take a partial
Yeah.
breath to get the whole line on it.
It was finished at Sound Connection.
That's how you got that sound.
That's amazing, Lou. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even interrupt there, but I remember telling that story. It said you guys were cutting swinging and they were pulling the gear out of the studio, taking it. They were shutting down CBS or whatever.
That was the last record done in there.
Really? Dang.
15 minutes ago.
One more overdrive.
One more.
We take the console out.
Who was the harp player that was here for the Three Pickers, or was it another? It was another thing.
Yeah, we did another thing for PBS.
Yeah. What was his
James,
name?
Jim
American
Cotton.
Music. Yeah,
Jim Cotton. James Cotton.
James Cotton. He just died this past year.
Yeah.
Oh,
And he was in all of Earl Scruggs.
Oh, my
He would
God.
just sit in there.
Just old school.
He came running into the control room. He had to tell somebody. He says, "Man, I just met Earl Scruggs. You know that guy in Beverly Hillbillies?" He was so excited. He says, "He let me hold his banjo."
Yeah.
Oh, we've had some characters in here.
well, if you want to go delve into Ricky's, I think your first gig was with Ralph, wasn't it? You and Keith.
Yeah. Me and Keith Whitley met when I was about 15. I just had turned 15, and my dad and I was playing this little concert. It was a high school fall carnival kind of thing, and so me and my dad was there and I was playing fiddle back in those days. You know, I was kind of been playing for about a year on the fiddle. And so we were there, and then this young guy was with his brother and another 2-3 guys, and it was Keith Whitley. Mm-hmm. And we'd never met, and we ended up, they had the men's locker room was downstairs underneath the stage, the basketball stage, or basketball court that was there. And so we were the only two down there, I guess I'd put my fiddle case down there or something. But anyway, we just started talking, who do you like? I like the Stanley Brothers. Who do you like? Well, I like the Stanley Brothers. You know this one? And I said, yeah. So I just started singing, and, that next weekend, he came over to my house, and we were together every weekend for probably 4 years, and we went to see Ralph in West Virginia. He was coming. We'd heard that he had just gotten a new lead singer and guitar player, Roy Lee Centers,
Mm-hmm.
and said he sung just like Carter. And we said, oh God, we got to go see that, And here we're 15 years old going to a beer joint, and of course Dad took us over there. And Dad said, now don't y'all watch what they're doing. You just listen to singing, Yeah, okay, Dad, And so anyway, we got over there, and when we got there, no Ralph, no bus, no nothing. And I don't know, the club owner, or the beer joint owner, I call it a club, beer joint owner, he had a club behind the door. But the beer joint owner, he came, he said, did you boys bring you stringing instruments, and we said, well, yeah. And he said, well, can you play maybe a half hour or so? Said Ralph called and said his bus broke down. Said he's going to be a little late, And so we got up there, and the only songs we knew, and Keith's brother Dwight had come with us, banjo player. So it was my dad. My dad had his guitar. I had my mandolin. Keith had his guitar, and Dwight had his banjo. And we did 30 minutes of Stanley Brothers songs. That's all we knew. I mean, we didn't know no Flat and Scruggs, We knew Stanley Brothers songs and the old ones. And so when Ralph comes walking in, I can see him coming in, and I can see him in my, my right view mirror. And he goes over, and he doesn't go to the dressing room. He goes over and pulls up a bar stool and just sits down. And it's like, will you please go, You're right in my face, and I can't sing with you out there, And he sat there for the longest time listening to us sing, and finally took off, went to his dressing room. Well, our instrument cases were in there, and of course, I can open one fiddle case or a mandolin case and block 5 people. It's in the wrong way of the door. And so anyway, we were in there. Oh, sorry to have our cases in here. And he said, oh, you boys just, he said, when we come in, we thought they was playing the jukebox. Said, you just sound just like me and Carter when we was boys, And so he got up and started bragging on us and everything, wanted us to play on the break, So we got up and did more Stanley Brothers songs. But that was our first meeting with Ralph, and then he took us on the road that summer. And we had to go back to school and finish our high school. And I was saying, oh God, why do I have to do this? I have a job. I've met all the dead presidents that I need to meet in history. It's like, so anyway, that was an incredible education to be out with Ralph Stanley, and in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. But musically, when Carter died, his brother, Ralph really not only physically went back to the mountains, because they were living in Florida in Live Oak. They were living down there when Carter passed, and they'd been down there.
That was 66.
Yeah,
I think.
And so anyway, Ralph moved back to the mountains, and but not only geographically did he move back to the mountains, but musically he came back to the mountains. If you listen to any of those early things that he did with Larry Sparks, I mean, those first records he did once when Carter had passed, he was drawing from old stuff that much older sounding than what he and Carter was doing. They were trying to find, music that, even though it was still ancient to our ears, it was still, they're always trying to get played on the radio too, with King Records and all that, So, but he reinvented himself back then, and really brought the mountain sound, Ralph Stanley, the mountain sound of the Stanley sound, he called it, and that was good by me, because that's that was the way I had grown up in Kentucky, because really the Russell Fork River is really basically the same river that goes in the mountains there, that starts the Big Sandy in Leviza, that goes down to Louisa, real close to where I was raised. So we were very close together musically, but we were close together, geographically as well. But I loved Ralph, and I really grew to love him more after I left and started my country band, the country thing I did in 80 and 81. And, I missed him. I missed him a lot. And I remember when I was off and I could go to a bluegrass festival somewhere, man, I'd take off and go. I'd just go to a bluegrass festival and fight people off or whatever to get with Ralph, because I want to get with Ralph and hang with him, and I remember recording "More to Be Pitied," that song "More to Be Pitied Than Scolded," that song King Carter did on King, and I'd cut it for Sugar Hill, and so I just remember putting headphones on Ralph. I had a little Walkman. I was cool. I had a Walkman, and so I put that Walkman on Ralph's ears, and I played him "More to Be Pitied," and he's sitting in his little van, and he just sat there and got to the chorus, and I just saw tears start streaming down his face. I thought, oh, I've touched the heart of the King of the Mountains, I've touched him. So glory be. But he knew where that old ancient well was. He knew how to tap into that thing, and he knew that it was deep, and it was for anyone that wanted to tap into it. It was there.
We had an album called Ancient Tones.
Ancient Tones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Monroe talked about the ancient tones, sounds from way, way back there.
So it was part of something.
Yeah.
Bill used to have the ain't no part of nothing.
Yeah. It was part of something. I remember, Chris.
There's a
Golden.
picture of the album right there.
Chris Golden, that is Bill Golden's son, that of course has a connection here. Chris, sweetest guy in the world, and Mr. Monroe would play on Wednesday nights. He'd come to church over here at Holiday Heights, across from where Buck and Patty lived, Sharon's dad and mom. We'd all go to church together on Wednesday nights. We was in town, and hearing Mr. Monroe back there singing, God, it was just like the best,
And he'd play out here at
us.
the
And so he'd go to the Bill Cove when church was over. He'd
yeah.
go out there and take his mandolin and go and play with whoever's in there, and so he said, Chris said I guess Chris was either going in or coming out, and he had a snare drum in his hand. He was coming out the door, I think, and Bill was going in. Mr. Monroe said, there ain't no music in the drum. Ain't no music in the drum. And Chris, that's right, Mr. Monroe. I agree with you.
I think we'll leave it with Walls of Time.
Yeah, that's a Monroe tune.
And Mark has got a little picture of Ricky in there that you all can get a laugh from. Oh, turn up the music. Turn it up. Turn it up.
John Cowan blowing it out. That was a funny. I had a part in my mind that I wanted someone to sing, and I brought Dale in, and he just, he didn't sing it like I was hearing it, and because most people would have sung the third above the lead, and I wanted the fifth, so it's lead and fifth, and so Dale didn't do it, and I think I'd asked someone else maybe to come in. I can't remember now, but finally I said, let me call Cowan. I know Cowan will do. He can do it. So called him up, and he did it.
Yeah, he's singing with the Doobie Brothers.
Yeah.
I was doing sound at Camp Springs when he started with the Newgrass Revival.
Yeah.
And when John Cowan opened his mouth, the
God.
bluegrass people just went.
Yeah.
They didn't move. What is that, Betty? What
Oh, he played bass with them for a year before they even knew he could sing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it's amazing.
So, do we have any questions for Ricky? Or I think we.
Lamb Standard. Oh, there's plenty of food out there. Yes, sir.
You got any more Fred Cameron stories? What he did here?
Jimmy may have more than me. Fred, when I got to know Fred, he wasn't engineering that much. He was just making stuff, good stuff. He was repairing my mics, and we had actually he was going to hot rod. Well, he did hot rod a '67 for us, didn't he? Yeah, I'd gotten another '67, and he cranked it up somehow with some of his voodoo that he do, and but also he told, because I had some KM66s, which are rare as hen's teeth, and so I was talking to Fred about them, and he said, well, now I can take one of them 86s, son, and I can put you a tube in there. I said, really? He said, yeah. So we were going to do that as a project one time. We just never got around to do it. He's going to put an AC701 in there, like the 66 has. But he was a great guy. He was just funny, and he just
Very
country as a stick. I mean, wore overalls, and very opinionated. But he knew what he's talking about when it come to sound and and flow, energy flow, electric flow. I mean, he knew, and of course, noise floors were so high years ago. God, they're so low nowadays. You can hear anything, any kind of little hum, you're going to hear it. And so we were always trying to get our mics quieter, and getting our EQ preamps and stuff like that, get all those things quieter. And so Fred was he was a big help, and John Downs was another guy that's man, that guy's he was a blessing to us. He's really, really sick right now. Y'all pray for him, but he's a sweet man, and he came out here and it's really helped us with some mics, and he would get 4 or 5 Telefunken tubes and listen to them, and that ain't gonna work. No, we're sending that one back, and he'd pick out the choice ones, and just because they said Telefunken on them didn't mean they was good, So he was our ears and eyes for all that stuff.
New old stock source, yeah.
Yeah,
And Fred Cameron was inducted into the Lifetime Achievement Awards at the Country Music Hall of Fame.
Wow.
By the AES Nashville.
Oh, that's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
He was brilliant.
Yeah, he
Yeah, he
really
was-
was.
And he built the first remote truck.
Really?
Yeah, and it was a Spear console, and it's in the back of Douglas Corner right now still.
Wow.
And it's still running.
That's a different truck. That's
Oh, was
a
it?
Fanta truck.
Oh, that's a
Is that
fan.
Rosen's truck?
Oh, Rosen's truck, yeah.
Celebration, and then
Yeah.
that console went into, he built the console and went into Shook Shack.
Oh,
It was
Shook
eight
Shack.
guys.
Wow.
Speaking of Fred, I think he built a couple of EMTs as home brew. I don't know, Jimmy, do you remember that?
We had one here.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, it was up
Yeah.
behind the conference room
Yeah.
in a little closet.
Is he still up there?
Might be.
Not it.
Yeah.
No, they turned that into a kitchen later, I think.
Yeah. Dang
but
kitchen.
Fred built 247s back when I was doing the Flecktones, and he came one night to the studio and had them in a cardboard box because I wanted to use them on Jerry Douglas, but they were just a little bit too bright for Jerry's Dobro, but I kept them.
That's great. We got a couple of things, right? We got a preamp and
We got a it's a preamp limiter
Yeah.
direct box.
yeah.
Fred, in the late 90s, early 2000s, he was famous because just about every record you heard on country radio, he had taken an 87 and hot rodded and made a 67 out of it.
Yeah.
So, and they were just amazing. And every time if you got a tape to work on, you'd turn the vocal up, you go, man, what microphone is that? And it's Fred Cameron's hot rodded 87. So he was just kind of, and you had to know about him, and he had to kind of like you. Kind of like Bill said, he would just show up with a box of stuff if he liked you, and if he understood that you understood what he did was amazing,
Yeah.
he would kind of feed you those things and get you to try them.
And those 47s, back then, that was been 93, 2-ish or something. Haven't had a problem with them.
Yeah.
Yep. They make good stuff.
Yeah. Mike?
Yes, sir.
What was the first mic that you purchased to start your collection?
The first-
And you still have it?
Yeah, my 47. That was at the Quonset Hut. And Lord only knows, Lou, who all sung on that 47. I mean,
Everybody. We used it a lot on background voices.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's,
It's sitting right in there right
Yeah.
now.
yeah, that's it right there. Still got that old connector and everything to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dell's been singing on that for the last few days.
Yes, sir. I did. I got 2 of the
Try one of
49s.
them on your steel.
Ooh.
Oh, 49 on steel,
Never
yeah.
tried that.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
I could try to
Or
read
Fet
that.
47.
Mm-hmm.
Lloyd always liked that.
Yeah,
Buddy.
I'd love to pick y'all's brains on what kind of equipment you used on, of course, I'm such a, me and Eddie Stubbs says we're the Moldy Fig Club, and because we love moldy figdom, the old stuff. He said everybody we love is dead, and Eddie he'd go leave the opera and he said, well, I got to go play 2 hours of Dead People now. He said, figs in paradise. So, but the sound. I was listening to an Ernest Tubb record last night, and just hearing is either Buddy Emmons or Buddy Charlton. Either one was great, and just the sound of the steel back then in Lloyd, and the top end was. It seemed to sizzle without being bright. You could hear this. You could hear the bar move on the strings. There was. It was very, very audible. And but everything was warm and audible at the same time. Nothing was thuddy.
Like John Drake's daddy, he played an old Standell that hissed to high heavens.
Yeah.
And when we was doing an up-tempo song, I would mic on the tweeter part. And it was just automatic. They went to a ballad and it was quiet, a lot of daylight.
Mm-hmm.
I just move at 49 off of the tweeter and get rid of that hiss. And
Mhm.
still do get the top of it.
Coming from the side.
Hmm. So you'd mic it on the side?
Well, just move it
Off the tweeter. Oh, yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
Toward
Yeah.
the cone part.
Pointed
Right.
this way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm talking about moving 3 or 4 inches.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, y'all did so great, and those records y'all did will live forever, you know, certainly in our hearts. And we're standing on y'all's shoulders, you know, trying to make good records.
Stood
And
on shoulders.
I know you did, and you always honor that. And I love what Ray Stevens has done out there at his place. If y'all hadn't been out there, you need to go check it out. It's a great club. We're hoping to do some of our country shows out there, you know, coming up. And but he's got all these great pictures on the wall, huge pictures, you know, of Owen and you know, Fred Foster and all the great producers, you know, in Nashville, you know.
Really sure.
Yeah. It's beautiful, and just the way he's paid tribute to all that, you know, talking about how that's what built Nashville. You know, you hear all this, and the Grand Ole Opry, you know, was certainly the spark that ignited Nashville. But what built Nashville really was the studios. You know, that's what made Music City. It's what made people want to come here. You know, it's why businesses came here and record labels came here. You know, there wasn't any labels when the Opry started. Of course, that's 25, but still, I mean, you know what I mean? Even in the 40s, there wasn't, I don't guess there were labels here. Because I know when Mr. Monroe and Lester and Earl, when they went and cut the first bluegrass records in Chicago for Columbia, they had to do those in Chicago, you know, and so because they're, I guess, I don't know why. I guess because they just
Well,
that would have been 46.
Harold Bradley said if it hadn't been for the recording engineers that knew how to run the gear, Nashville would have never happened.
Yeah. No, I believe that.
Ricky?
Yes, sir.
I asked Owen about a year before he died what kicked the recording industry and the family and got it going here, and he didn't hesitate a millisecond. He said Ernest Tubb chose to record here. And he said when Tubb came to the Opry, he was such a big star he could cut where he wanted to, in
Yeah.
Dallas or New York or LA, Chicago.
Yeah.
And the three guys that built Castle, the three WSM engineers.
Yeah.
They just built Castle, and Tubb settled in and saw that. He said, I'll record here. And he said, we got credentials right then.
Wow. That's amazing.
And he was observed the music business since the 30s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jim, you had a question?
I just wondered how many EMTs you had, and are they the tube amps or are they solid state?
They're tubes.
The EMT plates?
Yeah.
No, they're transistor.
Oh, okay. I was thinking these two.
And how many?
We got two of them.
Two?
Two stereos?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they sound luscious. Yes, sir.
Yeah, what kind of mics and preamps were used on your instrumental album?
Oh, well, we used a lot of, we used the KM66s. We used the Sony. Another mic that I got down there at Bradley's, or at Quonset was a Sony C37A, and I've loved that mic.
Great
That mic
mic.
sounds great on anything. So I got quite a few of those now. I've been able to find them, but we used those. We used
64s.
64s.
The Omni version of the 54s.
253s.
253s.
Yeah.
The Gaffel version of that when it was all split up.
Yeah.
Probably mostly Neve Prees.
Yeah.
And
First time I heard C37 was in this room. This in 77 or 78, whenever it was. They had Jimmy could probably tell this. Their mic selection wasn't exactly wonderful, and I just grabbed whatever I could, and I put that C37A on a tom, and he hit the tom, and I was like, I just went to heaven. So when I started working with Ricky, he said, "This is what I use in my mandolin," and it was just like everybody would come and say, "What are you doing with this mandolin?" Nothing. It's those hands right there and that microphone.
That mic.
Are those mics and pre's still here?
Yes, sir.
yeah.
Ain't had to sell them yet.
Now, this coming here to record is like a dream for toys for boys
Yes.
and girls. Yes. Well, I want to thank
E.G. Adair did a jazz record in here too.
on piano probably.
I think she played on something for Charlie, and she wanted to come out here. I don't know if she ever booked it or not, but she played for
She came in and did that
Charlie
thing
McCoy. She
that we
some
did
stuff
here.
for
Yeah,
Charlie
yeah,
McCoy.
yeah.
But she, well, and that piano back there is a 9-foot Yamaha. The original owner, just for trivia people, belonged to Chevy Chase. That was his personal piano.
Really?
Yeah. So, Travis, did you ever work out here?
Yeah. In the old control room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What stuff did you work on?
It was jingles.
Jingles?
Yeah, I don't recall what it was, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's all a blur.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Were you here then?
No.
So I guess you must have helped me through the session, because I couldn't have walked in and done it.
When would that have been?
Oh, man, 80s.
Yeah, I was here now, yeah. I was here till 93.
Ricky, can I
Lou?
make a comment?
Yes, sir.
I was gonna say, you got two of the finest engineers in town sitting there by you,
Oh,
work in the studio,
thank you, Lou.
want to do the job.
Yes, sir.
Where are
First
you?
time I
Yeah.
Bill?
I worked with Brent. I was singing harmony for Jerry Kennedy, doing an overdub, making a little rent money.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
kind of goes to show you. I'd met him when he first came to town, and I said, I listened to him in college. We listened to the Skaggs and Rice record at Belmont, and we would just almost cry. It was just amazing. So I finally met him, and he says, well, I'm here in town. I'm going to be playing and doing whatever I need to do. So we were working on Reba's record, and Jerry Kennedy, he always called me Cool. He said, Cool, we need some harmony on this record. You know anybody? I said, man, you got to call Ricky Skaggs. I said, he'll blow this away. So we called Ricky. Ricky showed up, and it was either, I know it was a top 10 record. It may have gone #1, but it was. So we're doing the next record the year later on Reba, and she had a tune that was kind of like it. And I just looked over at Jerry and I said, man, we got to call Skaggs again. He says, Cool, Skaggs is about to be out of our league. And sure enough, a month later, he was hotter than a firecracker.
I think I did the first session he played in Nashville. He came in and played fiddle on the low band session.
I sure did.
Yeah.
Tommy B.
I sure did. And I did some things with Chet. On Janie Fricky record, I think. No, well, I don't know if Chet was producing Janie.
No, I don't know about after Columbia. but-
Montgomery did her later stuff. I don't
Yeah.
know about her first stuff.
Yeah, Billy Sherrill.
Bill Sherrill did the
I
first
think she was singing harmony. Me and her sung harmony for somebody. Yeah. Chet was producing.
stuff. Yeah, she was a background singer when she
Yeah.
first
And I
started.
was playing fiddle on something, and Chet said, I used to play a little fiddle. I said, oh, you did? Here. You sure followed your calling, brother. Yeah. Well, I sure appreciate everybody coming. This is a
Yeah,
blessing
man.
to have all of you here in my place, and really, really appreciate it, Bill.
And we appreciate your time.
Yes,
I mean, Ricky and I go back to when I was doing live sound, and you and Keith were singing for Ralph.
Yeah, good Lord,
Yeah.
that's a long time ago. And
We're
you were
way back.
on a was you working with Rosen? What?
I was with Gary Head.
Gary Hayden.
But I didn't work for him. I worked at Warner Brothers. And
Was I doing the cash thing?
no, you were doing a thing in Knoxville, a Westwood One radio
Okay,
thing.
okay, yeah.
And I got the gig by default. You'd call, I think, Eric Prestige, and he didn't want to do it. And he says, why don't you go do it? I says, I've never done anything like that. And he says, well, now's the time.
Sound like Eric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how we first
Divine
met.
intervention, man.
It's
That's
like
what that was.
84, 85, I forget exactly. But, yeah, a few days back.
Yeah, a few days.